uh, if you hear me sniffle or such, it's because I did some vacuuming today. And plus, with some of the water damage, I may actually be getting some mold around the house. And of course, a little bit of mold will throw me into horrible allergy issues. Yeah. I've been meaning this video and talk for a while, but I never have got around to it. But there we go. Now, just after high school, the Elder Scrolls had already come out by then. I graduated in 1999. Early, actually. I got out that summer and started a job right then because I had actually fulfilled all of my obligations to graduate. So I only went, the start of high school, I went like 3 days, and they told me I didn't have to come back for the rest of the year, that I had already surpassed my credits needed to graduate. Well, after that I met a friend of a friend, and we went camping, because I love camping. He knew we were pagans, and he was a pagan, but we actually shared a horn over the fire to Hircine. Back then I thought, well, maybe Hircine is just an aspect of Kununos, or I kind of rolled my eyes at the idea of pop culture paganism in general back then, and only recently have changed my ideas. But after that I didn't think much of it until later, when I got more settled in life. About that time, Hircine's name popped up almost everywhere. Images of him popped up everywhere. And it was one of those, okay, there are no coincidences, really. So if this name keeps appearing, there's something to it. So I decided late one night here, at the start of this year, about when my roller coaster ride started, I'll get into that in a minute. But I went outside in pitch blackness, because I live just outside city limits. And it's dark here on the darkest of nights. I can go outside and actually look at the stars. But I went out into the wooded area, raised my arms in a typical invocation style, and simply said, Hircine, are you a real god? Felt nothing. Waited a few minutes, nothing. Turned around and started walking back towards the house. A gust of wind hit me, and I felt a hand on my shoulder and mentally heard the words, what do you want, hound? Well, aside from, I've had other deity contacts, so I didn't actually, have a fit right there, but I knew what, I kind of jumped having the contact actually be that much of contact. And it was from there that I started simple, printed out, and started doing devotions to Hircine, and really digging in to him, and to find out what was he really like and what was he not like. Well, first of all, there is a basis to every god. Even fictional gods have some form of inspiration coming from an actual god. And the more I dug into this, the more I did not believe Hircine was Kununos. Actually, that's another rant, but I'll get into it a little here. Kununos proper was an underworld god, a god of fertility, as in not necessarily the fertility of the fields, the fertility of prosperity. Because he was usually shown holding a bag of money that was spilling out, and the deers were eating the money. So that's prosperity. There's no mention of Cernunnos before Wiccans having anything to do with hunting per se. Now, for a little interesting tad bit, there is a Celtic god named Erubenus, or Euron in later lore, who had hounds, both otherworldly hounds and werewolves. He ruled over hunting. He wore a deer skull mask, but I don't know if that's Hircine. As in, Hircine may be a new avatar for the modern age of Erubenus, or Hircine can be his own god. And lately I've been leaning towards that, although there may be some kinship with Erubenus in there. Which a lot of this I'm having to work out as I go, because ancient and modern lore was always free-flowing until it was set in stone, which it was never supposed to be set in stone. When things get set in stone, they usually become the religions that screw over humanity somehow. If you're not able to learn, grow, and evolve, you can't really function. But and through Hircine, I stumbled onto other Daedra worshippers, as well as worshippers of the Nine Divines and other Skyrim gods. Well, I looked, and most, if not all, the pop culture community has a deep love for their gods and can actually feel them the way others feel their gods. So either ancient gods are taking on new forms, or these gods exist and they're given the inspiration to authors and to game makers to write about them, which is 100% plausible. But like I said, I have noticed though, well, first I was going to say with the Daedra, but it's not just them. Lately, a lot of the gods have become a lot more active and more physical. And I don't actually know what that is, unless we're actually reaching an apex where everything's going to boil over and things are going to change for either the better or for the worse. And usually when we reach these, about every 100 years or so, there is a great influx of both gods interfering is not a good word to use there. When they become active in our affairs, along with other spirits, and even magic getting stronger, that usually means a change for the better or for the worst. And I'm hoping that the change we're going to go through is for the better. Although, as others have pointed out, there is no growth without some pain. It's gonna freaking hurt no matter what. But yeah, and I also run across other communities. There are actually people, and when I say pop culture paganism, I don't mean they're using thought forms for magic. No, these are people that are devotional towards their gods. Magic may figure in, but it's the same as any other religion, as in the relationship with the gods is over magic. But I also ran into people that was working with the God of Seven, although they've kind of died off a little bit. I haven't been able to find them on Tumblr. From Game of Thrones. Now, that one is a direct correlation, because while he got the idea of the triple god from Catholicism, he actually got the idea of the Maiden Mother Crone, Father Warrior Smith, from Wicca. So there's already traditions kind of playing around with those aspects and stuff. So it wasn't really a big leap that sooner or later people would work with that. But I'm noticing this has popped up more. Now, the problem with a lot of people that worship gods from pop culture is most are worried about what others will think about them. Because, well, even I was open-minded when I first looked into it, and was kind of rolled my eyes at the idea until Hircine, like grabbed me by the collar and slapped me a few times. And by the way, Hircine is as physical as Upawat is in addressing certain things. Some gods are really physical, as in they'll get touchy-feely when they're trying to convey something. And some of us are bullheaded enough that it takes a god getting us in a headlock to get us to do certain things. Kind of like you should go to the doctor. No, I don't have the money for it. Well, now your eardrum's going to explode and you have no choice. But relax, everything will work out. That kind of thing where coincidences line up and everything. And that is personal, as in, yeah, that happened to me. And things working out, that fell into place too. I was at the ER, didn't have insurance, it was going to cost way more than I could ever afford. And somebody was walking through and like, oh, do you have insurance? And I said no. And I was like, here's some papers to get on to the Arkansas Works program, which if you make this much money but less than this much, you can get some help with your health care. Well, I filled those out and got it, and they paid back 3 months, which at the right time, the time that I filed all this, bam, it covered the ER trip and everything. So first, always listen to what a god says. And contrary to some people that say religion is bad, no real god is going to tell you to hurt someone else. If something tells you will hurt somebody, question it, because it's not a god. Because, like I said, real gods don't do stuff like that. Now, although the pop culture pagan community is becoming bigger now, thankfully, it still has its issues. Mostly, like I've covered, most people are terrified to let others know that they worship this deity, which we really don't know from the physical world, although, like I said, everything is influenced by something else. So, it could be the gods are taking on new forms, or it could be these gods have always existed and are influencing game makers or TV show producers to write about them. Yeah, Upawat. Well, Upawat and me getting in the feeds, I mostly overcome the issue I had. And that was, I was getting in the feeds and letting the trolls make me mad. Or hurting my feelings. That is what Upawat was mad about. He was like, don't go in the feeds because these people will try and hurt you. But now, when I'm in the feeds, I'm kind of being a jerk to the jerks, and I don't let it bother me. So Upawat's a little bit less on that. But it was mostly that he didn't want me to get hurt, and I was letting the people in the feeds get to me. So that's what that issue was about. And also, Hircine is big on working out, because he come into my life at the same point Upawat was doing something about my health. And now the doctor, when I got referred to a doctor, did the whole, oh, you're going to have to lose a lot of weight, and you're going to have to be on this diet. And I'm like, the gods are... I didn't listen to the gods when it was said to me, do these things. So now it's forced upon me. I have no choice. Yeah, the hours of the day, yeah. And since I'm sitting right here, I can see the comments a little bit better. But that's what it's... And I've actually opened... I'm looking into... some pop culture pagans are turned off, as in... Some producers would actually try to sue you if you created a temple to this deity or that deity. But the fair religious use, as long as you're not making money, should protect people from that. And there's been some people in Norway, or I can't remember where, they tried to patent search words as heathen, blot, and stuff like that. And I'm like, you really can't do that. You can't really patent something religious. You can try, but it'll tie up the courts forever. But usually you can't do that. But yeah. And another thing was, I was having trouble with all my deities, even before Hircine come along. I've learned to manage. And I don't get the anxiety attacks that I once had. With Hircine, that'll be 12 gods now. And I can manage this easily. Although Hircine and Upawat has been really buddy-buddy and basically at both shoulders for the last couple of days. Probably because of the storms, as for protection. And that's another thing. I was worried because I had an experience with Hircine. And that's like, okay, I'm going to have to start worshiping him now too. I was worried that my other gods would have an issue with that. No, I did divination, no issue whatsoever. It's just, Hircine kind of wanted his own altar because there actually wasn't much space on my other altar. And all I have of Hircine right now is pictures because there is no place making Hircine statues right now, and every statue of Cernunnos does not look like Hircine. So, although I favor statues, pictures will have to do for now. But yeah, that's basically. And like I said before, a lot of these gods are becoming more active now because we are on the verge of another change that will help or hinder. Oh, somebody. I got 2 or 3 people messaging me, but since I'm on the phone, it. But yeah. And I'm actually thinking, well, I wrote up a little thing on Hircine worship because, well, with the Daedra especially, there's really nothing out. Somebody did do a study on neo-pagans that worship the Daedra a while back, but they only interviewed 3 people. But as our numbers grow, it will help. But I've actually been thinking about writing a little treatise on Hircine worship, which will be simple, because unlike the Elder Scroll lore did get this part right. Hircine really dislikes any long rituals. He's more of the buddy hunter that wants short, sweet, and to the point. He's more happier if you're toasting him over a campfire than if you're in some temple burning incense to him. That's a part of the lore that they made up for him that does fit. He does not care for long rituals. He does not care for certain other things that other deities would. He don't require a lot of space for his altar, which works out perfect when you have a small area like I do. As you can see, just an incense burner and a few candles and a wolf statue. And of course my devotional art that I had to go and get made. But yeah, I'm going to have to develop more because I've only met 3 other Hircine worshippers, not counting the original that got me started looking into it. But we're few and far between because most people don't want to openly say it. They'll either worship Odin or Kununos and use Hircine as a title under that. Because, well, we're already chastised because we're pagans. Well, if we're worshiping a deity we connect with, even though the deity made itself known through popular culture, people will there would be even more of a stigma added on to it. So, a lot of people just keep it quiet. And me, well, I'm a loudmouth anymore. In how things, or how I view it, I will often just speak what I mean, which usually ends up cutting me off from family. And those that don't know, I had a recent spat with my uncle who apparently called me a pedo protector because I welcome members of the community and the gays, and I fight for gay rights. And he believes what Fox News said about the gays welcoming pedos. Sorry, the communities don't. In fact, every time that the pedos have tried to insert themselves into the communities, they've had their tails kicked. But that's beside the point, and that's a rant for another video. But back on that, if anybody asks me, I will point you. The Temple of the Daedra here on Facebook has a link to a Discord group, or you can message me and I can get you the link, or point you to the person that can get you the link. Where we're trying to actually build the worship of certain Daedra in the modern world. Which, like I said, is even harder to do than rebuilding paganism itself. Because of the stigma and everything. But yeah, I don't know how long I'm going to go on this, but yeah. My experiences with Hircine have been like any other god. I've physically felt him hug me. Headlock, just like with Upawat. Lou was years ago when I got headlocked by him. But, so to me, yes, Hircine is a real god. Whether he's an aspect of an older god appearing in modern times, or if he's his own god in himself. He appears as his own god unto himself, to me, so that I have to go by that. But like I said, he may be a form of the god Erubenus, or maybe not. People are messaging me. Yay! Why do I always get messages when I'm going live? But at least it ain't like that one time I did a service and the phone basically tried to blow up. But yeah, my experiences have been real, so the only thing I can conclude, Hircine is a real god. Now, on the Elder Scroll stuff, some of the gods there do get a bad lore history. Hircine is not cruel, like sometimes can be seen in the Elder Scrolls. No underhanded dealings, nothing like that. He is stern, but not like his character 100% in Elder Scroll. Though, one thing they got right in my interactions, he does like to call his worshippers hounds. Which is funny because besides wolf, hound, I've always been called hound here or there, so it fits. And from my talk with people who worship the other Daedra, there's some misconceptions about their god too in the lore. But other than that, the lore on Hircine is particularly good. And I'm sitting here trying to light incense while reading the comments. Yeah, I remember that. I remember when the altar, or the incense burner, went up in flames. After that one video I posted about, you know. But yeah, anyway, I'm trying to apparently research and become an authority on Hircine worship. Since there really ain't that many out there. And a few I knew on Tumblr have stopped posting anything and haven't in a year. So I figure they've either gave up or quit. But like I said to begin with, Hircine is really easy to get a hold of, and he really don't care for elaborate rituals and stuff. Though one thing he has demanded is kind of long walks on the full moon, which is not bad because I'm in the middle of nowhere usually. So I can walk down the road staring at the moon without any threat from people. So nope, nope. It's just something to say hello when the incense burner caught in the flames like that. Yeah. And I also noticed other things once I full-on started worshiping Hircine. I don't hunt, but I do go camping, and I wear hunting gear when I camp. Well, right after that, when I got an altar to him, a family member showed up with a $200 pair of boots and was like, they didn't fit him well, so here, have these boots. Brand new, $200 worth, and they were given to me. And they fit perfectly. And after that, I had somebody give me a hunting knife, which I will actually use to cut wood. There's Bast. I was wondering when Bast was going to show up, because she usually hears me talk and meows until... But yeah, and I got a pair of overalls that were given to me, and all these will come in handy. I haven't camped lately, but I love camping, even in cold weather. So, and hiking, I can spend hours in the woods. Oh, and there's Bast. Bast is gonna meow through the whole thing until I'm over here, Bast. Yeah, I'm over here. Yeah, if you want me, come over here. She's... And also, the bibbed overalls were given to me right after the Hircine worship, too. Which I tend to wear around the house a lot. And which, when I post pictures flexing in them, I get all kinds of wonderful messages and comments. What, Bast? I'm over here, Bast. Yes, I'm over here if you want. She's probably just going to sit there and meow at me. Yes, I went from a house full of kitties to down to 3 kitties right now. The cat that stays downstairs is blind now. He's so old. And I still got 2 that stay up here, Bast and Runt. But yeah, that's my main thing that I was going to talk about the most during this one was the pop culture paganism. And the thing is, those who go by that title, or simply Daedra worshippers, or worshippers of the Seven, or whatever, we do not view ourselves as chaos workers or anything like that, or, you know, chaos magic, who will worship pop culture figures and stuff. Nor do we actually believe that our gods are thought forms. We actually believe our gods are 100% real gods. Bast, I'm over here. Yeah, I get a lot of comments, and like I said, I'm open-minded enough. I don't really let any of the comments get to me. But yeah, I get a lot of proposals to be boyfriend or and such. I've gotten marriage proposals just from a few of my flex pictures. But that's going to be another rant video sooner or later, if I can get around to it. But, yeah. While there are some who view the Daedra as more philosophical ideas, the vast majority of those of us active do view them as 100% real gods. Be they themselves or not, as in aspects of another god or such. Hircine appears to be his own god, so I'm going to trust him on that. My interactions have been that. Just like my interactions with Upawat have been to confirm that he and Anubis are not the same deity or aspects of each other. They're separate. Although I will say Anubis is the one that would be sipping on the glass and staring at me or whoever in Upawat, kind of doing that head shake thing, you know, when we get in the shenanigans. Because Anubis is more streamlined, follow the rules, be a little more stern. And Upawat is kind of the party animal. He stays within the bonds of the law, but he kind of is the party animal. So, and his methods are more hands-on than Bast. I'm over here. If you want to come over here, come over here. She's in the background just meowing. Oh, there she is again. But yeah, I've been wanting to do this video for a while, and I may actually, as soon as it finishes uploading here on Facebook, I may go ahead and pop it onto my YouTube channel. But, like I said, I tend not to stretch stuff to make my side look good or whatever. I try to be neutral in this, and I can say, from my own experience, Hircine is a real god. I've had experiences I can't explain, just like I have with other deities with him. So therefore, I got to take my experiences as my experiences and say he and the other gods exist. So, your experience may vary. And I found out a simple rule that I've followed since high school. While there are a lot of groups that view the gods as archetypes or whatever, or just as thought forms, if you treat a god like its own individual god, and treat it like a god, you will actually get a good response. You will actually get responses. And they don't go for trying to command the gods around or anything like that. Usually the gods won't zap you, but they will just not pay attention. Oh, there you are, Bast. Bast, over here. Yeah? What? She thought somebody was in here with me. Let me... What, Bast? See that dark blob? That's Bast. She's like perfectly camouflaged in there. Bast, move. so the camera will pick you up. Yes. She's a Russian blue. You can kind of see her eyes right there. Bast. Oh, you saw her tail flip over here. But she's a Russian blue, and she perfectly fits into the shadow there. Come here. She thought, normally when she hears me talk, I'm either on the phone or she can see someone else in here, and I think I confused her because she ran over here. But yeah, she perfectly is blended into the shadow there. But yeah, let's turn this around. And adjust my phone here to where you can see Hircine, since he's the one we're actually talking about. But yeah, that has been my experience. Treat a god like it's a god. Not the Christian idea. You don't have to crawl on your hands and knees. But if you treat it with respect and stuff, you'll actually get an answer. So, that's the rule I've went by for years. Now the thing is, if you try to connect with a god, and you keep trying and you feel nothing, you're either trying too hard, or that God is pointing you in a different direction. You can also have gods that show up, teach you something, and then you can't contact them anymore because they moved on. Once they taught you what you needed to know, they tend to leave. And then you have gods that'll show up and stay with you for life. Apparently, I got Upawat and I got Hircine forever. They've already made this known. So, in fact, I've actually been told in dreams and divination, my fluffy tail is showing up in the hunting grounds, which is Hircine's area. So, that's settled, apparently. Bast, come on over here if you... Come on, Bast. She's just softly mewing in the background. But yeah. And I'm bullheaded enough that I'm stepping up and say, yeah, I worship Hircine. I've had real experiences with him, so I can say he's a real god. And you got to remember, somebody influenced the game makers and the artist to come up with that image. So, yeah. A lot of us have deities that have stuck with it. Anubis has always been there with me. He was one of the first deities I contacted. Come on, Bast. Come on. Trying to do a video and having a kitty meow. Bast! There we go. Come on. There's no one here. Oh, she darted off over there. She usually hides from other people, so she thinks I'm talking to somebody that's physically here. So she boated off that way. But yeah, Anubis was actually the first pagan god I contacted. Then after that, it was Marduk. I tried to work with him. Actually, he helped me through a lot and to get a little bit stronger. But then he went silent on me. Which meant, I didn't know at the time, I thought I'd done something wrong. So, I kept trying to connect, and I finally got a divination that says, you done well, I'll see you later. Kind of like that. Then, around my high school area, or years, I was actually fortunate enough to start courses with the Our Lady of Enchantment at that time, and I adopted their gods, which are Cernunnos and Cerdiwen. Cerdiwen is not a goddess, a historical goddess. She's a name that appears once in a story. There's no place named after her. There's no carved altars. And in the story is an evil witch. And the story was written down after the Christianization. So while it may have held on to pagan ideas, it was not. But people found the name Cerdiwen, and since she is a witch in the story, they did, oh, she's a goddess. So they elevated her back to a goddess. Well, in truth, she wasn't actually an ancient goddess. Now, the goddess that stepped in the role is actually Namatona. And I'll actually do a separate video on how I found out that was the goddess that stepped into that role and took on that mantle later. But in my high school years, I worshipped Cerdiwen and Cernunnos. And the reason a lot of Wiccans worshipped them together was their names sounded so good together. But I did that system for a while and used hand-drawn little images. Then, well, Cernunnos stayed with me, never could connect with Cerdiwen under that name. But I branched out because a friend was into Anglo-Saxon paganism and worshipping Woden and Frigga, or actually Freya. In the Anglo-Saxon tradition, Freya... I'm getting tongue-tied here. In the Anglo-Saxon tradition, Frigga and Freya are the same goddess. So you don't have the separation of Freya and Frigga that you do in Germanic paganism. But I did that for a couple of years. And then I learned a lot of lessons from Freya. Learned a lot from Odin. Learned a lot from Thor, or Thundar. Then they moved on. And that's when the Celtic deities come back. Mainly Brigantia, or Brigid. I use her, she is the same goddess. I just use her Celto-Roman name, which is Brigantia. Sulis Minerva, I did not know who Sulis was at the time, and had to do the unknown goddess thing for a while, until I found her name. Malchus, I had a friendship with Malchus long before that, but I kind of pushed him away for a little while because me and the particular Druid Grove that was local, we went to a friend's house in Nashville. He was dedicated to Malchus, but while we were there, he let his 3-year-old grab some kittens and just kill them right there in front of everybody. He laughed about it. The wife laughed about it. And that left me crying and conflicted for the whole evening, so I pushed Malchus away, equating it with that. Didn't want to work with him for the longest until he finally come back, and I dropped that experience. To find out that guy turned atheist, but then his marriage fell apart. He lost the kids in a custody battle, and he had to move. So that come back to bite all of them in the butt. So I added Malchus back. Tyrannus, I've always had a kinship with because he protected us during the storms all the time. Bast showed up about the same time as Freya did. And is also when I was taking in every single neighborhood stray I could. So yeah. And then Cernunnos reappeared under the name of Cyrennicus, who has more altars dedicated to him, and he was a god of prosperity. And I coupled him on a whim with Namatona, and to find out there was one reference to these couple, or to them as a couple, because the god of groves married with the goddess of mountains and groves. So that's how they re-entered into my practice, and that's how I ended up with the pantheon I got now for the Shrine of the Irish Oak. And then Hircine come along and finally got me in a headlock until I added him too. So now I got 12 gods, with other gods starting to knock on the door too. So I'm like rocking back and forth. How can I handle this? But now to get back on track, I can say years of polytheist training and such, that Yeah. New gods are arising or making themselves known, and the Daedra are among them. So, I'm going to go out on a whim and say I fully support pop culture devotional paganism because the people have real affections towards their gods, and from my experience, the gods exist in some form. And I actually lean towards them as real gods and spirits over thought forms that we humans created, because a thought form cannot be that strong. And likewise, an archetype can't be that strong. So I'm going to have to end up writing more things on Hircine worship, because he's kind of prodding me. Although, like I said, he's not one for big ceremonies and stuff. And he's more thrilled if you're on a camping trip and pass the horn over the fire, the campfire, than building a temple to him. And he, although he puts up with me when it's like 100 degrees outside of me praying and talking to him in front of the altar, he prefers me to actually go outside under the moonlight and talk to him there. So if you're an outdoorsman, love camping or anything, he's a god that you might want to get to know. And he does want you to actually spend more time outside. White Bass. And Bass is back over there mewing in the background. And actually, some of my friends here on Facebook are Daedra worshippers, and we have a Discord, but we don't really have a Facebook group. There is a Facebook page, Temple of the Daedra, and of course I've been added to other Discord groups that focus on the worship of the 9 divines of Skyrim, and a few others. But I can put links in the description and everything. Or if you have a question, simply message and ask me, because I try to answer all the questions that get sent to me. Oh, also, a lot of Nordic and outdoor themes go well with Hircine. He likes the more rustic stuff. I still got his Skyrim candle holder, but I haven't put it up here. I'm actually going to hang it right there where the hunting vest is. And I got another hunting vest that looks better than that one. That one's just one of the cheap ones that I'm actually going to hang over here for him. And another thing, a lot of Daedra worshippers are having to put this together because worship in the game isn't really thought out that well. So we have to put together a list of acceptable real-world offerings and stuff. And one thing that Skyrim completely left out, well, they had burning candles and torches at shrines and stuff, which is another thing I'm going to get, is 2 of the mini tiki torches and have them here. And I'm going to put liquid paraffin in them, and that'll actually, he'll like that much more better than he will actual candles. But a lot of the Skyrim decor fits perfectly with Hircine. Even Norse stuff he likes. But one thing the Skyrim games completely left out was acceptable offerings and use of incense. Which, for those of us that use incense a lot, like I said on the worship video earlier, it's kind of hard to get. But what kind of incense do we pair with the Daedra is the issue. Now for Hircine, since he's an outdoorsman, pine, cedar, the best stuff to get is the stuff you can actually buy in Native American shops, which is actually just really compressed cedar shavings as incense. Those work remarkably well, but they're incredibly hard to find most of the times, and you usually have to drive to a native shop to get them. And that means going all the way in the Oklahoma too. Another thing I got a gift of was these Chinese sandalwood that has menthol in it, but they didn't balance out the right menthol level, so these smell 100% like musk and body odor. And I was like, what am I going to do with these incense? Since, you know, that's a horrible smell. And Hircine is like, give them to me. And I'm like, but they smell like me after a 3 days camping trip. Hound, I want them. And I'm like, okay. So now I got the stankiest BO incense that I burned to Hircine. So that's one thing. But musk and stuff like that work well too. Sandalwood works good for most deities, although Hircine kind of rolls his eyes at it because it's a fancy smell that he really don't like. But usually, if one of his worshippers give him something, even if he don't like it, he'll accept it, like most deities will. Unless you go out of your way to try and make the offering horrible. Then you just get a chokehold. I mean, come on. Hircine is perfect for my circle of friends, even my military friends, because we all play the country boy game of pulling off our boots, shoving it in our buddy's face and be like, smell that. Hircine giggles at that, you know. So yeah. Perfect if you're a country boy, you like camping, Hircine is a god for you. Now, he does put on that even in a town setting, he'll show you how to protect yourself and stay alive and everything, even in a setting such as that, an urban setting. But he prefers the outdoors. Nah, trying to keep my voice while I'm talking. Yay! The last 2 videos have been the longest I've had for a while. But yeah, I've been wanting to do more educational, more in-depth discussion of such things. Oh, another thing I'm going to try to Hircine is some Irish cream alcoholic incense. Since Hircine is a big one that likes beer and stuff, so. Oh, and he still likes chocolate milk. I don't know of any god that don't like chocolate milk. Real chocolate milk, I should say. The stuff that don't have all the artificial sweeteners and stuff in it. But yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. I can vouch that the Daedra are real gods, and are actually more active right now. I also got antler down here that I'm going to hang somehow. Like I said, it does kind of suck that I have limited space. And the way I got the altar now, the stairs are right behind this. I had to put this wall up. And it actually bends to where the air duct is that circulates the air through the rest of the area. But yeah, this was an attic that got converted before I moved here into a room. It's just kind of a big loft. and with a few partial walls that I had to reconstruct and stuff. And there's some parts like the back way over here that before I use that area, I'm going to have to reinforce the bracing in the room below. So, but yeah, that's Hircine, like Upawat, is also very physical in the fact that you can be down one day, not feeling it, and you feel a bear hug around you, and it's like, mine. Immediately cheer up. So, and contrary to the video game, he won't actually hunt you down. He will hunt you in other ways. A game that I made up was, since I'm out of town and usually don't have traffic on this road, if I'm standing out moon watching or star watching and I hear a car, I turn around and start walking back towards the house. If I get to the house and in before the car lights hit me, I got away. If the car lights hit me, Hircine won. As soon as I made up this game, I got headlights so many times. Normally I can hear the cars a half a mile away, so I had plenty of time. No, after I made up this game, it's like bam, bam, bam. And I was getting spotlighted constantly, and I'm like, crap. So yeah. And I'm trying to read your comments, but I'm like teetering back and forth trying to look at the screen. So yeah. And actually, one of his properties is you got to be fair in everything you do. And hunting, Skyrim mostly covers the hunting lore, which does translate into everyday life. Setting down goals and achieving them is hunting. And the big thing you'll get grabbed by the collar by is cheating. If you worship him, you got to follow the rules. That includes the rules of hunting and the rules for hunting transferred to something else. If you're in a corporation, you got to play fair. You can't throw somebody under the bus to get ahead. If you do, that's when he gets more physical. In a bad way. Because worshiping him, you take on the thing of you will be fair. You'll achieve your goals fairly. You'll hunt fairly. Which actually is needed more in this world right now, since too many people are backstabbing each other. Oh, and I got sidetracked because I found an incense stick just sitting here on the floor. I can be easily distracted. That's normally why I put down keynotes in front of me whenever I go live and such. But yeah, I want to set the record straight that pop culture pagans are not on some fad. Most of us also incorporate other pagan elements into our practice. Other Daedra worshippers may be Norse, may be Celtic, may do other religions entirely, and work everything in perfectly. Remember, most of our gods are not jealous. Even with Upawat and Hircine hugging and doing the my thing, mine, I'm still free to have relations with any other god I choose. And also, like those that didn't catch it the other day, I made the little meme with Hircine doing the F around with my hounds and find out, because a certain family member made an indirect threat and their house suffered some flood damage the day after they made the threat. And so, like Upawat, Hircine is very protective. And a lot of times you actually got to tell him, give them karma, but don't really hurt them. Because he goes for the full, you hurt my hound, I'm going to hurt you thing. It's... I won't say overprotective, I'll say protective. But yeah, if anybody watching or who watches this after I post it, if you have any questions directly about Hircine, the Daedra, go ahead and message me or get a hold of me, and I'll try to answer the questions as best I can. Or leave a comment on this video. Oh, I see I already got a laughing comment. I bet I know who that's from. I got a few people on my friends list that really don't believe in paganism, and they think Christianity is the only religion, and they usually laugh at some of my stuff. And also, I want to get around to saying it, we must update our traditions. Like Arith said on his last video that I posted, if we try to recreate paganism as it once was, we've already shot ourselves in the foot about not letting the growth happen. We got to update and let our religions grow. And I actually think the influx of these, I don't like saying it, but new gods is to get paganism to grow more and to become more accepting. Because so many pagan traditions, they'll set out their traditions and everything and draw a circle around it and then stop growing. They won't branch out, they won't network, they won't have new experiences. And that cuts you off right there. You're supposed to be constantly changing and adapting. I'm always adapting the service I use for the Shrine of the Irish Oak. Although it's kind of the same, it may change here and there when I ran upon something new. If you tie yourself down, the tradition stagnates. And too many religions are already doing that. So I think part of the power going on, power struggle right now, is the gods are trying to kick us all into fixing some of our problems and growing again. But like I said earlier in the video, that does require pain. And a lot of us hate pain, but a lot of us get put through pain for our betterment. And like I said to a few people, the last couple of days, I've been having some mental issues with some stuff. And then bam, right and left, I'm seeing all these things that directly tackle my issues. And remember, there's usually no actual coincidences. So if things keep happening, examine it. Look at it. But yeah, I do have a Tumblr I can put. It's got a lot of my RLSH stuff, but I actually talk more about Hircine over on that blog. And a lot more of the pagan stuff there too. Because Tumblr is actually easier to use than Facebook is. The way they changed the notes area. And to write a note is kind of confusing. But on Tumblr it's easy. So I may go ahead and put that down there. Although I think it's Wolf Paradox blog for occult and RLSH stuff. I don't know. You should. The number one way to find me, apparently I'm his champion right now, is actually go to Tumblr and put in Hircine worship or Hircine worshipper. You should find me in the search results. Yeah, a lot more. Loki's coming back really big, and Arith pointed that out. Although Arith took the idea that Loki is the divine spirit, the spirit of fire, the spirit of the hearth in the Nordic tradition, rather than a god. And like, to me, a powerful spirit is a god. If it can do certain things, it falls into God category. And contrary to other pagans, I do believe the gods are all powerful. It's just, some of them would say, well, they can't break physical law. And I'm like, why would they want to? If they help create the physical universe, they set the laws in motion, so they're going to play by their own rules when they play in universe. And that's another thing. I may go on a rant here. Magic is not technically magic. You do magic and it sets things in motion to bring about your goal. It don't magically manifest something like Hollywood magic. Everything that happens is due to a chain of events that you started with the spell. It's a series of coincidences that tips the balance in your favor to get what you want. That's also how the gods work. You ask them for help, they're not going to magically heal your broken leg. You're going to get taken by an ambulance or whatever. Somebody's going to show up right then to get you to the ER. That's how they help heal you. And they may throw in your body beefing itself up to fight the infection or whatever, but it's going to be through natural means and a series of controlled coincidences that bring it about. Yeah, well, that's a whole other video, because Hinduism had it but kind of dropped it, and that was most of the gods had an actual female form. And I have to put on there, when I say God, I mean divine spirit. Usually it's tradition, it says this divine spirit is masculine or feminine. Gods are gods. Think back to Ghostbusters, the original. I thought Gozer was a man. It's whatever it wants to be. That should be the thing. A god can be whatever it wants to be. We humans get caught up on which sex is it or whatever. That's mostly a human thing that we get caught up on or concern ourselves with. A god can be a goddess, or it can be a god the next moment. That's the nature of the divine. And sometimes, yes, we get way caught up. And clear my throat a little bit. There we go. But yeah, that kind of covers everything. I don't want to be new agey and say we're moving into the age of Aquarius, where we're being more open-minded. But there is change in the air. People have had it on both sides. There's a great magical energy happening. Something's going to happen soon. There's going to be some form of change that's going to push people to either be better, or we're going to have a little dark age for a little while. And while officially I try not to be political, F Trump, I will say I dislike Trump's policies and him and what he's actually done. And unlike some pagans, I'm a Celt. When our king screwed up and hurt the people, we took care of it. So, and no, I'm not advocating any physical violence. I'm simply saying people have a right to peacefully assemble to get things changed. And also, because one person called me out on this, I do not believe in physical violence unless it's protection of one or someone else. Do not believe in violence over religion unless you're protecting yourself. But I 100% believe in cursing. Now, what I mean by cursing is casting a binding on somebody that if they were to follow through and actually hurt you or a loved one that they made a threat on, then the magic will take effect and hit. But like I said, I really haven't had anything to do with that, because when you got gods that watch your back, things automatically get taken care of. It's also why I don't feel the need to pray for things much. My daily prayers are just for general blessings upon me and mine, and for the temple. Because once you're in a relationship with one or more gods, they tend to actually look out for you. And you don't actually have to make requests, except for very few times. They already know what you need and make sure it gets to you. But yeah. So there's no need to do that. But like I said, I'm not opposed to protection magic. Because actually in this day and age, you can use all the protection you can get. And I'm actually going to be making a little shrine here, when I get a time, to the local nature spirits. Because they've helped fend off neighbors that were not neighborly. So they deserve a little shrine. Hello everybody tuning in. Yeah, this rant started on pop culture paganism and the newest god I worship, Hircine. But we're all over the place talking about religion and magic in general. And if you got any questions or anything, you can always message me directly or comment on this video itself. Because I will get the ping. Well, given how Facebook is, I probably won't get the ping that somebody else has commented on the video. But I always go back and check my videos to make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, pop culture paganism should be taken seriously. Because like I said, the gods that worship have sustenance. So like I said, I'm almost having a bromance with Hircine lately. Actually, it goes a little bit deeper. But that's for Wolf After. But, and that's coming from somebody that's Ace. But yeah. That's for the God Spouse video I'm going to be doing later. And for the Wolf After Dark special or whatever. Oh, and there's Bast meowing again. Bast, I'm over here. You know where I am. The kitty's been mewing softly in the background while I've been talking. I bet she's thinking, what is that human doing? But yeah, that's... The basic idea is... Also, most deities are like Hircine, as in... The more direct you are with them, the more you get a response. Most do not require very long ceremonies. If you make the ceremony too long, you'll lose focus. But others do like the ceremonialism, so it depends on which god or goddess you want. Some can be picky, and some, like Hircine, don't really care. He's like, give me that cheese, it's been in there for a while. You know. And actually I'm doing good. I'm checking my time. Oh, and I got a message. Yeah. I'm not going to say names. I usually don't. For security reasons. But if you message me any fundraisers to help, any pages, any news you think I or anybody that follows my pages will like, go ahead and message me. I will share them on all my pages. Because my pages usually do a lot of networking. So yeah, just go ahead and message me. Right now, I'm only able, since I'm live, I'm only able to see the video comments, and for a split second, share them on all the pages I have. I especially share fundraisers. Because actually the temple page right now, we're completely maxed out. I'm actually having to wait until the... it's not a money order. Dang it, it's late and I can't think. I may actually have to wait till the bank statement gets here. Because last month, a lot of people... I had to donate to a lot of people. I mean, people were not having food for that day. And I've had to donate money at temple from the temple to them. Last month we started off with Wounded Warrior, which is one I normally do because of Upawat. River Valley Pantry, because they started hitting hard times with the lockdown and everything. And then, like I said, I had people message me, could I please spare some money? And of course, we set aside certain money every month when we can. My temple's not rich. I wish we were. But we set aside some money each month that we can that goes directly to people that need it, or to charities. But like I said, last month hit us hard because we sent out over $100 in donations to various people and stuff. And all of it's cataloged. That's another thing that brought up a while back. No, I keep records of everything the temple does, and it's all agreed upon by the board of directors. Nobody gets paid, and none of the money goes to any one person. But, yeah, if you have links to share, go ahead and message me, and I'll share them as soon as I can. Like some more solo ponto, or the sacred wood from South America that I can't say right now because apparently my brain's not wanting to work. Palo Santo. But yeah, message me and I'll post everywhere. But yeah, and it's not just me. I've talked to others that have been having experiences, not only with the Daedra and other gods, and they're having the same issues, that the gods are becoming more physical, or more physically connecting, and magic has even been beefing up lately, and becoming a little bit more powerful. So we are on the eve of something. I'm really hoping it's going to be a change for the better. But given the way things are right now, but like I said, the message that we got during the service today from the temple gods was, you won't be bored for long, new adventures are on the way. And Hircine's wisdom was, you will live a long life and eat many fortune cookies and good food. And what it basically means is, yes, there's going to be a change, there's going to be pain, but we'll get through this, apparently. So, no giving up hope. But, and of course, but yeah, I'm going to continue on. Pop culture paganism is popping up recently because I think the gods are trying to get us to update our practices and to start growing again. Since all the pagan traditions have tried to emulate Christianity, that is, have a set priesthood, have rules and regulations, and while these things are good, they can help us, they can make us stagnate if we set everything in stone and refuse to get our head out of the sand when something new comes along. Alright, see you later. Defend. I can barely see it. But yeah, go ahead and message me, and I'll share that when I get back to the PC. What, Bast? Come on. I'm over here, Bast. Yes, Bast, if you want me, I'm over here. She's gonna meow over there. And I will say that sadly, even with the Shrine of the Irish Oak, I wanted to emulate the big temples, and I wanted everything to be perfect. And, well, there is that fantasy of every worship service, you have somebody that's throwing rose petals at the altar, throwing rose petals on the people that are assembled. 2 people carrying incense to the altar and dancing, and you know... Then you realize that all that is just fancy dress that you really don't need. It'd be cool to have all the ceremonies choreographed. I'll see if I can find it. But there was an ADF Grove. The Sonoran Sunrise Grove. That they had a service that they did for YouTube a few years back at one of their... They actually had enough money to build a concrete grove outside. This was in Arizona. A stone circle, actually. No, actually, I think they had real stones set up, but they had torches in between the stones that were fed by gas lines. It's an awesome place, but I think they moved. And they now have Trout Abbey Druid Sanctuary or something. I follow it, but I can't remember. They recreated it there. But a few years back, they did a service where everything was sung and everything was said in rhyme. And it was awesome, but you got to think, a service like that actually takes a toll on you, and it's a ton of planning that really isn't practical unless you're doing it for a show like that. Oh, and it looks like we're down to just the Lokian here. Oh, that's why Facebook is yelling at me that I went over 40 minutes long. Well, so I guess I'm going to have to cut it off here before it completely shuts off. Thanks for everybody tuning in, and like always, if you see the repeat of this, questions, comments, concerns, put on the video, message me. Until the next video, bright blessings, everyone.